Do you remember what I said about the Ratchet and Clank series? Specifically the post-PlayStation 2 era? Yeah, scratch that. I've actually taken the year to get into it. I wouldn't say I'm completely swayed, since my top 2 games in the franchise are still both from the PS2 era, but I've definitely taken strides in moving on from the past. For starters, the first game I played on my new PS4 that I got this year was the 2016 movie reimagining. And while it's not the topic of this list, I can say that the game is bloody fantastic. Great gameplay, vibrant colors, witty humor, awesome story. Who am I kidding? We all know that's a big fat lie! Yeah, the reimagining story didn't really sit well with me, as did the characters. Part of that is because the original game is my favorite in the franchise. Why is for another day, however. But also because I played another Ratchet and Clank game for the first time this year that top-trumped it in almost every way. The first game in the Future trilogy, Tools of Destruction. You know how I just said that my reasons for loving the first game in the series will be saved for a later date? Well, the truth is that a lot of the reasons that I love that game for are also the reasons I love Tools of Destruction. So yeah, you're gonna get an insight into why the original game is one of my favorite video games of all time. While the 2016 movie is the official remaster, I'd say Tools of Destruction is closer to home when it comes to mirroring what I loved in the first game. For starters, I found myself really invested in the characters of this game, especially Ratchet and Clank, and the story I found to be very engaging. And for the first time since the first game, which was only 5 years prior come to think of it, I feel like the story is being driven by the characters involved and not because it just needs to progress. It really does feel like Ratchet and Clank are a part of the story and are involved somehow. Not to mention the characters and personalities, particularly Ratchet's, go through major development throughout the story. I was just brimming from ear to ear as I saw Ratchet's personality and his relationship with Clank develop and thrive in this game. And while we're on characters, the guys that were introduced in this title are all welcome additions, especially the Smuggler. You get a sense that we're supposed to hate this guy, but you just can't help but love him. But you know what they say, there's a nut in every family.
Emperor! See the crown, see the scepter, the giant walking throne and legion of loyal robotic commandos, Emperor!
Ugh, Tachyon. Oh well, at least he's not as bad as Gleeman Vox. But of course, this wouldn't be a Ratchet and Clank game if you weren't blowing up every tiny bit of the scenery, right? Well, there's plenty of that available! This game's arsenal is up there as one of my favorite assortment of weapons in the franchise. Not to mention, it introduced some of my favorite Doomsday weapons to the landscape. The Predator Launcher, the Alpha Disruptor, Mr. Zircon, Buzzblaze, the Shock Ravager, and many, many more. I can't help but smile when I use these weapons! Especially since it feels like everything at your disposal has its proper time and use. It makes playing through the game that much better since you know that your early weapons won't be going to waste any sooner. Which was a problem I had with the second and third games. This game certainly sought to rectify that. Speaking of rectifying problems with earlier titles, Tools of Destruction overhauls a lot about this series. For starters, the upgrading system is now completely different, able to upgrade different aspects of the weapon by purchasing them for Raritanium. Though it probably shouldn't be called Raritanium if you require it in quantities of up to 1,000 at most and you gather about as fast as you collect bolts. But the mechanic in itself is one that will be carried forward through the series, and it's a nice addition that I like. But the best thing they improved was Clank sections. They were decent in the past, but now they're amazing! Accompanied by the mysterious Zoni creatures, which are much better than the Gadge bots, Clank now has new abilities, such as able to slow time, hover, and command Zoni to repair or destroy stuff for him. And they will continually upgrade him throughout the adventure, making Clank more than just a jump extension when playing as Ratchet. Calling this a perfect Ratchet and Clank game, though, isn't easy. There are problems, such as this strange cutscene lag where the audio desyncs with the animation.
I'm telling you, all it needs is a couple of new batteries.
Oh, well, what do you know about Lombax technology? My mother was half Lombax. Yeah, well, we used to make these, gizmos out of paper mache.
I happen to be a renowned expert in Lombax history, and this doohickey is a zombie death beam emitter that'll wipe out all life in the galaxy.
Then why are you trying to put batteries in it, you darn fool?
And the game is prone to being a bit on the unfair side from time to time. But I can safely say that I love Tools of Destruction. One of my top 3 favorite Ratchet and Clank titles.